Oba was a very short man. In the whole village, there was no one as small as him. His head barely reached the waist of other men, and even children sometimes stood taller. People laughed at him all the time. When he passed by, young boys would point at him and shout, "Look at the stump of a man." Even the old women laughed and said, "If the wind blows too strong, Oba will fly away like a leaf." Oba always laughed along. He clapped his hands and pretended it was funny. But when he went into his house at night, his smile would fade. He would sit alone in the dark, holding his knees, and the laughter from the day would echo in his head. One afternoon, Oba tried to speak to a girl at the stream. Her name was Kemi, and she was filling her pot with water. Oba greeted her and tried to carry her pot for her. The girls who stood nearby began to giggle. One of them said loudly, "Careful, Kemi, your pot is taller than your helper." They all burst into laughter. Kemi covered her face and walked away. Oba stood there with the pot in his hands, forcing a smile while his chest burned with shame. Another time, Oba was repairing the fence in front of his small house. He held his hoe and tried to dig the ground. Some young men walked past. They saw how his short arms struggled with the hoe. One of them laughed. "Look, the hoe is taller than its owner." The others joined in. Oba laughed with them, wiping sweat from his face, but inside his heart, the pain was heavy. That evening, Oba went into the bush to check his traps. He had set them hoping to catch a rabbit or a bird for supper. As he was walking home, the sun already low, he met a strange woman on the narrow path. She wore a wrapper made from rough cloth, and her eyes were sharp like they could see inside him. "Oba," she called. He stopped. "How do you know my name?" The woman smiled. "I know more than your name. I know your pain. They laugh at you, don't they?" Oba's chest tightened. He said nothing. The woman reached into her calabash and brought out a small clay cup. Inside was a dark liquid that smelled like bitter roots. "Drink this before you sleep tonight," she said. "By morning you will no longer be small." Oba frowned. "How can that be? This is how I was born." The woman looked straight into his eyes. "Do you want to remain like this forever? Drink it. By tomorrow, you will be a new man." Oba took the cup home. That night, he turned it in his hands for a long time. Finally, he drank it all and lay down to sleep. In the morning, Oba woke with a strange dizziness. He went outside to stretch himself. Then he felt it, his legs pulling longer, his arms stretching wide. His head rose higher and higher until he saw the roof of his house beneath him. Oba gasped. The ground looked small. His hut looked like a toy. His body was still changing, bones cracking, flesh pulling, growing. Then a sharp pain tore through him. He staggered, clutching his chest. His voice thundered from his mouth, shaking the walls. Whatever was happening to him, something he could not control. And that was only the beginning. Oba staggered out of his hut. His body was still stretching, his bones cracking like dry wood. He could hardly stand straight, his head almost touching the top of the tall palm tree beside his house. The morning sun lit up his face, and the village saw him. At first, a child screamed, then another. Within seconds, the whole village was shouting. Women dropped their calabashes and ran, water spilling on the ground. Men grabbed their hoes and cutlasses, ready to defend themselves. Chickens flapped into the air. Goats scattered in every direction. "Beast! Beast!" voices rang out. "It has come to eat us. Run for your lives." Oba froze. His heart pounded. He wanted to laugh, to tell them it was only him. But when he opened his mouth, the sound that came out was a roar. "I am not a beast," he shouted, but his voice was too heavy, too deep, like thunder rolling across the sky. The villagers screamed louder, some fell to the ground trying to escape. Oba raised his hands. "It is me, Oba," he cried. But to them, it was the howl of a monster. The young men of the village gathered quickly. They pointed their spears at him, their hands shaking. "Stay back!" one of them shouted. Another yelled, "Do not let it come near." Oba took a step forward, but the ground shook beneath him. Dust rose around his giant's feet. The men panicked, dropping their weapons and running like the rest. Oba stood there, confused. All his life, they had mocked him for being too small. Now he was taller than everyone, stronger than anyone, yet they still laughed in their own way, this time with fear in their eyes. He bent down, trying to pick up a water pot that had fallen in the sand, but as soon as he touched it, the pot shattered into pieces in his huge hand. Oba stared at the broken clay, trembling. Children clung to their mothers, wailing. Old men shouted prayers, calling on the gods to protect the village. Not one person came near him. "It is me!" Oba cried again. He pointed at his small hut. "This is my house. I am Oba. I was born here. You know me." But the more he shouted, the more they ran. To them, there was no Oba. There was only a beast that had risen overnight. When the dust settled, the village was empty. Doors were shut, windows sealed. Only the frightened eyes of children peeked through cracks. Oba sighed. His throat was dry. He bent to pick up a pot of water someone had dropped, but the clay shattered in his huge hand, water spilling into the sand. He tried another, and it broke, too small for his strength. Hunger soon followed. He went to his barn and found yam. He roasted a whole tuber, but when he put it in his mouth, it was gone in one bite. He ate another, and another, until all his food was finished and still his stomach rumbled. The village could not feed a man his size. When night came, he tried to enter his hut, but the doorway was too small. His shoulders knocked the roof, breaking part of it. Oba lay down outside, on the bare ground. The stars looked close, almost within reach, but the cold beat into his bones. When the rain came, it soaked his body until he shivered like a child. He had wished for respect, for a little love. Instead, he had become the very thing they feared most. From the edge of the village, a figure stood watching. The woman from the bush. Her wrapper fluttered in the wind, and her eyes glowed like fire. Oba saw her and felt his stomach twist. She did not speak, but her smile told him everything. Was this a gift or the beginning of something worse? Oba was now standing face to face with the strange woman as dark clouds gathered over the village. The air grew heavy, the leaves shook, though no wind had yet touched them. Oba stood in the open field, his giant's body rising above the huts. His eyes burned as he fixed them on the woman at the edge of the village. "Why did you do this to me?" His voice rolled like thunder, mixing with the first crack of lightning. "You said I would be a new man, but you have made me a beast." The woman did not move. Rain began to fall, first as drops, then in sheets that soaked Oba's skin and flooded the paths. The storm raged as if it had come for him alone. "You wanted to be tall," she said calmly. Her voice cut through the storm like a knife. "Now you are tall. But has it changed the heart of the people? Even if you become normal height, it won't change their hearts. Because the truth is, Oba, you never accepted yourself. You thought respect would come from size, but you were wrong." Oba clenched his fists. The ground shook under him. "All my life they laughed at me," he roared. "I only wanted to be like them." The woman's eyes glowed in the dark. "And that is why you suffer. You laughed with them, though your heart was crying. You wanted their love before you gave love to yourself. Listen, short or tall, man or giant, the world will not honor you if you cannot first honor yourself." Lightning split the sky. Oba fell to his knees, the storm pounding around him. He closed his eyes and felt the weight of her words. He remembered the night he sat alone in his hut, hiding his pain, waiting for others to give him worth. At that moment he wished for nothing more, not height, not strength, only peace inside his own heart. The storm calmed. The woman raised her hand. "Return to yourself, Oba. Not the body they mocked, not the giants they feared, but the man who learns to stand as he is." Her words drifted like wind, and Oba felt his body shrinking. His arms pulled back, his legs folded shorter, his head lowered until once again the roofs of the hut rose above him. He was small again, he was himself again. The next morning, the villagers came out slowly, as Oba was going to his farm again, watching in silence. Some still stared, but this time Oba did not look to them for approval. As he turned to leave, a familiar voice called his name. It was Kemi, the girl from the stream. She walked toward him, her eyes soft. Oba, she said quietly, I am sorry. That day at the stream, I laughed with the others, but I hurt you. I should not have done that. Oba looked at her, surprised. For the first time, someone was speaking to him without mockery, without fear. Kemi reached out and touched his hand. Oba smiled, a true smile, not the mask he had worn for so long. His heart felt lighter than it ever had. He no longer needed to be tall, or strong, or different. He only needed to be Oba. And for the first time in his life, that was enough.